winger. Decided to go round. Oh, good running from Pocock. One to beat now.
When you think of women's rugby, you don't expect to see sights like this.
What toughness from Georgia Page.
Or this.
Oh, and a nice tackle there, and it looks like number 15 is down.
In fact, many might think that women's rugby is a simple walk in the park, until you meet a woman like Portia Woodman, where you see her go fully beast mode.
Got the offload away for Woodman Wycliffe. She barrels a couple more metres forward, picks up, goes again, and takes Grassino with it. Talk about power, talk about strength. Portia Woodman Wycliffe has gone beast mode.
Or Lydia Thompson.
It's going to be interesting when they come up with here. That's with force too.
Who swung the tide of a World Cup final. Yes, these are not your typical ladies, but monsters willing to do anything to win, even if it means dishing out a bit of brutality. These are the most brutal female rugby players in the world, and heading into the 2025 Women's World Cup, these players could be critical in leading a nation to victory. You might remember Ilona Maher from the hit television show Dancing with the Stars.
I'm the strong one, I'm not nervous, I'm as tough as the crust of the earth is.
A young American beauty with a heart of gold, and the most followed rugby player in the world. Yes, this includes the likes of Cheslin Colby and Sia Kolisi. But as beautiful as she is, she has a vicious streak when setting foot on a rugby pitch. Unfortunately, the Women's Eagles have not really allowed her to play her best and reach her full potential. But after moving across the pond and joining up with the Bristol Bears, Ilona's career seems to be on the up.
Here she goes, just boshes through the tackle. Ilona Maher.
So while Ilona is still young and an absolute delight to watch, it will be interesting to see how many bodies she can crush by the time the World Cup is said and done. Joining Ilona at the Bristol Bears is another monster of a human being in Hannah Boderman. The 220-pound English prop is just 26 years old, and she can do things like this.
Scaz obviously catches the ball because she's amazing. Come down, do the breakdown, and bots as we're getting up and running around.
Yes, lifting Scaz is not an easy task, but for Hannah, it's just another day at the office. But where things get a little tricky for the opposition is at the breakdown. As you can see, Hannah is not to be moved that easily, nor is there anyone who will stop her just a few meters out from the try line. Yes, Boderman might be an absolute monster on the rugby pitch, but she's still the absolute sweetheart off the pitch, much like the next lady on the list. Everyone knows the power and class of the Springboks. Players like Eben Elsbeth, R.G. Snyman, and even the formidable Baka Spatha quickly come to mind. But on the women's side of the game, the Springboks don't lack either. The now 30-year-old South African back rower has made a name for herself, dominating the collision and making serious yards on the pitch. Her insane speed complements this ferocious power, which has naturally made Hele a prominent part of the women's Springboks and certainly made her one of the most feared players in the world. But what happens when a woman born in Fiji decides to play for the Wallaroos? Well, this one might be a little controversial, especially given what happened in 2022. However, Elia Green was an absolute monster, playing for Australia in both the Rugby Union and Rugby League.
Flick it over to Green. So a foot race here. Harvey showing her the touchline. So Elia Green, can she do it? Green! Elia Green! Oh!
Aside from their speed, Elia had unrivaled power.
In on the outside. Oh, the fend from Green is fabulous! Two players sit out on the couch. You can watch me go the distance. Alicia Green. What a score!
But things were always a little different for the Wallaroo star. Many believed Elia to be too masculine to be a woman, but too feminine to be a man. In fact, they would simply just focus on delivering on the pitch. Unfortunately, Elia retired from the game in 2022, choosing to focus on transitioning into a man. Elia would be the first rugby player in history to become a trans Olympian. But we don't judge, and everyone can make their own choices. Fortunately for Elia, there are the most decorated players in Australian women's history. So, who can beat a monster Fijian?
Emily Scarrett is going to go all the way! Emily Scarrett.
Skaz, as we referred to earlier, is not just a star for the Red Roses. She is the glue that holds it all together for more than a decade. Lines like this. And tries like this. Have made Emily Scarrett not only a star in England, but one of the most feared women in the world. She might be more of a playmaker and leader than a fighter, but that's the general trend in women's rugby. In fact, it is very rare to see a fight actually break out in the women's game, which makes it such a pleasure to watch for someone interested in the skill. But when you look at Emily Scarrett and understand her impressive resume, it is very easy to see why she is one of the most feared players in rugby, and perhaps the secret tool the Red Roses will need to overcome the Black Ferns at the Rugby World Cup. So, who can be more feared than Skaz? The English speedster Lydia Thompson is not your typical monster like another lady you will see later in the video. But earning a red card for this tackle in the 2021 Women's World Cup might have devastated her career.
It's going to be interesting what they come up with here. That's with force too.
But it's the way she could combine both speed and power to not only break the line, but continue powering forward to the try line. His tackling is still crucial, and while Lydia might lose out to players like Jess Breach heading into the World Cup, she is still not one to be messed with. Perhaps Lydia could finally get her redemption if the Roses manage to knock off the Ferns on the grandest stage of them all. But English players seem to dominate this list, as the next one is an absolute sweetheart who turns into a beast on the field. This is none other than Sarah Byrne. A woman with a tough history, and at one point, even a back rower for the Roses junior teams. However, she transitioned to the prop position heading into the 2021 Women's World Cup and has since turned into an absolute megastar.
Hunt wants to dig one out. Runners outside. Carried at the line and they carry it for the try!
Now, Sarah doesn't often cross the whitewash, but when she does, it is important. However, this powerful unit of a woman is the kindest and most loving person off the field. The only problem is the opposing player doesn't meet her off the field. They have to get to know the woman when she's kicking ass and taking names. Still just 27 years of age, this woman is slowly becoming the absolute best front rower in women's rugby, and no one can stop her.
I think a lot of the time, a lot of brands, a lot of social media is based around one specific female body type, and I think those females are beautiful and that's brilliant, and it's great that women's rugby is being picked up with a lot of big brands, but actually I think if we really want to support women's rugby, we need to start supporting the all shapes and sizes. What rugby is celebrated for is having a position for everyone, no matter what shape and size you are.
But if you're looking for someone who is simply unstoppable, especially close to the line, no one does it better than this next woman. Tanya Kaluna-Vale is another Fijian woman currently contracted to the Blues in New Zealand. The 26-year-old cornerstone of the Black Fern scrum is almost 300 pounds, and she has the skill to back it up. But she's not as ruthless as the men's players, choosing to use her size to give Sarah Byrne a couple of headaches when the Roses and the Ferns meet. She's known as a rock wherever she plays and can break the game wide open in just a few seconds. Unfortunately, the Ferns monster prop has not had many try-scoring opportunities. But as the World Cup edges closer, you can be sure that she will once again rise to the top. But who is the most ruthless of them all? If you follow women's rugby, you might already know where we are heading with this one. Portia Woodman, as she is known by many, is perhaps the greatest women's rugby player on the planet. tries like this.
Woodman has changed wings, and now Woodman into the backfield. Portia Woodman, you're killing them.
And this.
The brazier, the kick pass, the better option. Wynyata gets it, pops it up to Woodman.
Is what rugby is all about. But when you can do this for more than a decade, win 2 World Cups, numerous local competitions, and even an Olympic medal, you undoubtedly seem like one of the greatest of all times. In fact, Portia just recently announced that she'd be halting her retirement as she heads to the 2025 Women's World Cup. And should she win this, it will be a 3rd for the all-black legend. But, win or lose, Portia Woodman is undoubtedly the greatest women's rugby player on the planet, and we'd love to argue this with you in the comments below.
To watch her play at Waitakere Stadium, Wayne Smith, the coach, said this week, this is the great...
But this is just our opinion, and while women's rugby might not be as brutal as the men's game, it is still a massive undertaking to run over 15 other women. If you think we'd missed one of your favorites, be sure to let us know in the comments.